Prepare to witness the long-awaited day of reckoning as we delve into the shocking cases of 6 vile pedophiles being sentenced to prison. These predators thought they could escape the consequences of their heinous actions, but justice has spoken loud and clear. Join us on a gripping journey as we peel back the layers of their crimes and uncover the dramatic courtroom battles that led to their ultimate downfall. Brace yourself for a roller coaster of emotions as we delve into the dark depths of these criminals' depravity and witness the power of justice being served. Number 1. Our initial destination takes us to the Eaton County Courthouse in Charlotte, Michigan. Here we witness the solemn proceedings surrounding the sentencing of Larry Nassar, a convicted individual who has repeatedly committed heinous acts of sexual assaults against no less than 265 vulnerable young women and girls under the pretense of medical treatment. Among those present, Randall Margraves, a devoted father whose 3 daughters fell victim to Nassar's depravity, seizes the opportunity to address the court and express his pent-up emotions.
I would ask you to, as part of this sentencing, to grant me 5 minutes in a locked room with this demon. Would you do that?
That is not how
yes or no?
No, sir, I can't.
Would you give me
that.
1 minute?
You know that I can't do that. That's not how our legal system works.
With all that suppressed anger, Randall Margraves lunges out of the blue into the defendant and is swiftly tackled and brought down by court officers. As for Larry Nassar, he was sentenced to 40 to 175 years in prison for various sexual abuse charges, to be served after a separate 60-year sentence for child pornography. That means he'll serve at least 100 years in prison, effectively a life sentence.
Sir, I'm giving you 175 years, which is 2,100 months. I just signed your death warrant. I need everyone to be quiet. I still have contempt powers. I told you I'm not nice.
Number 2. Following that, a 28-year-old former South Florida swim teacher was convicted guilty of assaulting 3 6-year-old girls at the Broward County Courthouse. Francisco de Aragorn was accused with sexual battery on a kid, as well as indecent and lascivious molestation. All 3 victims spoke in court, with one of them claiming, quote,
"Can you tell me what happened to you?"
The lifeguard touched my mouth.
Aragorn vehemently disputed the charges and stated that he had no idea why he was there.
And any of those kids flail or thrash or do anything that caused you to grab them in an uncertain way?
They could have.
Yes or no? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but they could have.
This defendant has not accepted responsibility for what he did, and he has shown no remorse in this case.
The discredited teacher stated that there may have been an unintentional contact when teaching them how to float that was misconstrued.
There is no justice in putting a life sentence on a man who is innocent. And from day 1 till the day I die, I have always maintained and will maintain that I did not do this. And to my accusers, I tell them the same thing that Christ commands us. I forgive you.
The defendant refused a plea agreement that would have resulted in a 25-year jail sentence and instead received 4 life sentences. Number 3. Next up is the arraignment of 23-year-old Christopher Branham, who is facing charges for sexually exposing himself and assaulting a young boy in a San Antonio movie theater restroom. The child, his parents, and 4 siblings were watching a movie when he returned from the restroom and told his mother about the incident, which a prosecutor described as a parent's worst nightmare.
He is just a sexual predator, Your Honor. He has poor impulse control. He uses drugs, he uses alcohol.
Before getting sentenced, the defender had this to say.
I'd just like to say I'm very sorry. If I could take it back, I would.
Branham pled no guilty to sexual assault charges as part of a plea arrangement that called for a possible sentence of 35 years in jail. His hairdresser is likely to receive at least 15 years.
I see no reason to do anything other than order that you serve the 35 years.
Number 4. Christopher Elwell, 29, appears in Stratford Superior Court for his sentence. He's been charged with aggravated felonious sexual assault on a 4-year-old girl in a Mineral Park house. The victim went to Elwell's house, where a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old were also there. According to the prosecutor, the girls recounted his showing them recordings of sexual activities identical to those performed by the victim. Elwell first rejected the claims, but eventually conceded they were accurate. Elwell also pleaded guilty to failing to register as a sex offender, having already been convicted on a related crime in 2008.
The defendant was required to register as a sex offender and had been living at 12 Mineral Park Drive off and on, but more than 5 times a month, and had not changed his registration with the Somersworth Police Department.
Something weird happened shortly after he was condemned. As he sat down on the bench, another inmate stood up and headbutted him, demonstrating his contempt for sex offenders. Elwell was arrested and sentenced to 7 to 15 years in jail. Number 5. We are presently in Miami, Florida, attending the resentencing hearing of Ronnie Salazar, a young man aged 24, who was previously convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment a decade ago for the heinous crimes of sexual assault and first-degree murder of his younger sister, who was only 11 years old at the time of her death. However, due to recent changes in Florida law, which prohibits the imposition of life sentences on juvenile offenders, Salazar's case is being re-examined.
They wouldn't tell me the reason why they left me.
During the hearing, Salazar expressed hope for a reduced sentence, citing his troubled past, which was characterized by poverty and parental neglect that had a significant impact on his upbringing and, ultimately, his actions. As we bear witness to the proceedings, we are also attending the sentencings of 6 other individuals who have been convicted of similar crimes.
I broke down and I told him what happened. Everything. That I wasn't going to bring Stephanie back.
Despite Salazar's hopeful attitude, his fate remains uncertain, and his future depends on the final judgment that will determine the duration of his imprisonment. As we await the verdict, it is essential to recognize the complexity of the situation and the need for a fair and just resolution that takes into account all factors, including Salazar's troubled past and the severity of his crimes.
It is this court's belief that people are not born bad. Clearly, red flags were being raised and wildly waved, but no one acknowledged them. Mr. Salazar, this court sentences you to 40 years state prison. It is this court's desire that Mr. Salazar receive a review after 25 years of incarceration.
Number 6. We return to Florida, where Lewis Matthews, a Tampa resident, has been charged with sexual battery on a kid under the age of 12. Tampering with physical evidence and 2 felony charges of lewd or less violent molestation of a juvenile under the age of 12. The 10-year-old told the prosecutor about falling asleep on the living room floor while visiting her mother's lover. She said Matthews woke her up about 3:30 a.m., undressed her, and abused her. Fortunately, he was cut off when her mother heard noises downstairs and dialed 911 immediately. Lewis Matthews was seen smiling with his attorney as they left. If I had been just sentenced to life in prison, it would have been impossible for me to even grin. Matthews promptly kidnapped the girl and drove her to a nearby gas station, where he told her to strip naked and drenched her with bleach in an attempt to eliminate his DNA.
Is there anything you wish to say?
No, man, I thank you for your time and everything.